Welcome to the cautionary tale of Petey Pablo, a rising star in the hip-hop industry from North Carolina. He quickly gained recognition for his anthems like Raise Up and Freek-A-Leek, which were hits on the charts and in clubs across the country. However, his career took a nosedive when he made the fateful decision to associate himself with Suge Knight, a man that was blackballed by the industry. Petey's affiliation with Suge Knight stalled his career in its early stages, and he struggled to regain momentum. To make matters worse, Petey was arrested for trying to board a plane on 9/11 with a stolen loaded pistol. He served over 2 years in prison and returned to a music industry that had moved on without him. Despite sporadically releasing music around 2016, he remains a little-known artist today. Today we'll be discussing the rise and fall of Petey Pablo. What up guys, Ali here and welcome to Ali Talks Music. Add me on Instagram at Ali Talks Music as well. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now let's get into the video. Petey Pablo was born around 1973 in North Carolina. He first got into music through his family's church, and his talent for singing was noticed early on in school. At just 13 years old, Pablo had to leave home to help his struggling family. It was then that he discovered hip-hop and began collaborating with local artists, quickly realizing his natural talent for rapping. But Petey's promising career was derailed around 1993 when he was convicted of carrying a concealed weapon and later attempted robbery with a dangerous weapon. He spent 5 years in prison where he continued to perform and improve his skills. Upon his release around 1998, Petey was determined to turn his life around and pursue rapping seriously.
Well, when I was, my first incarceration was when I really embraced, the music, because I was actually, at the time, Scarface was was one of my biggest influences in music. And the reason I loved him was because he spoke about real situations. It wasn't it wasn't no diamonds and no big whips and all. He was speaking the truth, the actual truth, straight up. Hey, you better get your mind right because this is what's going on. And that's what I've always been on.
He moved to New York City, the hub of hip-hop at the time, but success did not come immediately. He briefly returned to North Carolina before finally making it stick in New York City. His second attempt at making it in the industry proved to be more successful thanks to connections he made with certified artists like Busta Rhymes and Mystical, who was his Dirty South brother. One lucky day, Petey Pablo was freestyling with Black Rob and Dougie Fresh in a New York City bathroom when the head of A&R for Jive Records walked in and overheard his talent. Immediately recognizing his skill, the A&R for Jive Records offered Petey Pablo a deal on the spot, and things started taking off for him. Petey began making a name for himself, featuring on songs with big-name artists like Mystical's Come See About Me and Tory Carter's OK with Trick Daddy and Missy Elliott around the year 2000. By around the year 2001, Petey Pablo was dropping his own solo music and appeared on 9 other tracks, including collaborations with his mentor Timbaland, Dragon's Dirty, and Fat Joe's Fight Club with M.O.P. With his talent and connections, Petey's career was on the rise. Around 2001, Petey Pablo's major label debut dropped. He dropped a song called Raise Up, produced by the legendary Timbaland. And it became an anthem for his home state of North Carolina.
I brought him out of the show, but he brought Carolina out, This man put North Carolina on the map, at a time when we probably didn't have no national recognition. He gave us an anthem that will still rock to this day. It's called Raise Up, but you probably know it as North Carolina, come on and raise up, take your shirt off, around your head, spin it like a helicopter.
The song made it to number 25 on the Hot 100, and it even spawned a remix called Raise Up, All Cities Remix, that shouted out cities, states, and regions across America. After 9/11, the song had a huge impact. Petey then released another remix with the USA theme, dedicated to those who lost their lives and survivors. Decades later, Raise Up is still making major waves and inspiring pride for people in North Carolina. In fact, the Carolina Hurricanes even made the song their official goal song around 2018. Now, Petey's follow-up single, I Told Y'all, was not quite as successful as Raise Up, but it remains a song that still gets people hyped up to this day.
I told y'all, everybody have it. Y'all wouldn't listen to me.
Unlike other rap albums at the time, Petey's album focused on real-life issues and personal struggles, instead of just rapping about how much he had. The album came out around 2001 to mixed reviews, but it still did well commercially, peaking at number 13 on the Billboard 200. The album eventually went gold and was nominated for the Best Rap Album of the Year at the Grammys, although it ultimately lost to Eminem's The Eminem Show. Pablo released one more single from the album called I around 2002, but it wasn't as successful as his previous hits. Due to the lack of success, Jive Records cooled off from promoting him for a while, and his sophomore album was put on hold indefinitely. In the meantime, Pablo continued to work on his music and make guest appearances on other rappers' tracks. He even had a small role in the movie Drumline, where he performed his hit singles You Can Find Me, Raise Up, and I Told Y'all. But around the year 2003, things were finally moving forward with his sophomore album, and he continued to make guest appearances on other tracks with Lil Jon and the Eastside Boys, Benzino, and more. Towards the end of 2003, at the beginning of December, Pablo dropped one of his most successful singles of his career called Freek-A-Leek. The Lil Jon produced track was an instant crunk classic.
24, 34, 46, good and thick, and what you get sure work.
The song quickly climbed the charts to number 7 on the Hot 100, and it eventually went platinum. To this day, when most people think about Petey Pablo, they think about Freek-A-Leek, as well as the response track that arrived the following year. The response track was called Goodies with Ciara and was the debut of the R&B songstress, with a feature by Petey Pablo himself.
I got a sick reputation for handling brawls. All I need is me a few seconds and more.
Arguably, Goodies was more successful than Freek-A-Leek. It became the longest running #1 debut single by a female artist on the charts since 1977, after spending 7 weeks on the board. It also went platinum. After a while, it came time for Petey to drop his next album, and he did so around 2004 to much more critical acclaim than his debut. It climbed higher on the charts, peaking at number 4 on the Billboard 200, but still only going gold. The album sold 117,000 copies in the first week, and the singles included Blow Your Whistle, Freek-A-Leek, and Vibrate. Now, after dropping his second album, Petey's career seemed to slow down, but in reality, he continued to make music. And around this time period, he became close friends with Suge Knight, who was blackballed by the industry. Petey began spending a lot of time with Suge Knight, visiting his house, eating at the Four Seasons, shopping, and going to the beach. This led to rumors that he was signing to Death Row or collaborating with Suge Knight on an album. While they did make music together, it wasn't released fully, and Petey was never signed to Death Row, nor was he beefing with Jive Records.
I really heard about Petey Pablo, you know, in the U.S. of course, because you were overseas. Was you were running around with Suge, and the word was that Petey Pablo is now on death row.
Right.
So let's talk about that.
You know how the media takes things, you know, and just runs with it and goes. And see, I never used to be a real media person. So like going on there and looking at it and reading what they say, it really never bothered me. But no, I mean, for the record, I was never signed to Death Row. We never had any paperwork. You know, it was just two guys hanging out with each other, and being in the same company in more than a few places. You know, it just puts you there. I mean, I know that it appeared that way, but it was never that.
A lot of people feel like because Pablo spent a lot of time with Suge Knight, a man that was blackballed by the industry, his music received less promotion and radio airplay as a result. Now, in that same year, around 2004, Pablo appeared on songs like Keep It Moving with Fiend and We Like Them Girls with Silk Da Shaka and Master P.
We like them girls.
Neither of these songs were super successful, but Pablo kept working, appearing on tracks like Get Triple X'd by Jay Quan and Bubba Sparks' The Other Side. Around 2006, Petey released Show Me the Money, which became one of his last charting songs to date. The song appeared on the soundtrack for Step Up and peaked at number 58 on the Hot 100. After this, he kept working with other artists like Pitbull on Uncle Luke's Holla at Your Homeboy and appearing in the film Just Another Day as B-Bone. Now let's talk about Petey's relationship with Suge Knight. Some sources say that Pablo recorded 3 unreleased albums through Death Row, while others suggest that only 2 were released as mixtapes. According to Pablo, him and Suge Knight were just friends and did not get into any trouble together. However, because he was strongly associated with Suge Knight, the industry began to pull away from Pablo. Timbaland himself even expressed concern about Pablo's relationship with Suge Knight. According to Pablo, this is what Timbaland had to say. I ain't gonna say he was pissed. He was more concerned. He was like, look little bruh, so I wouldn't use the word pissed. I would use the word concerned. He was concerned because me and him had long talks about that. Like, dude, at this point in your career, do you think it's a good career move? So he was basically asking me questions like that. He also clarified his relationship with Suge Knight. This is the big misconception of me and Suge's relationship. It was never a business relationship. I was never signed to Death Row Records. It was never PT on Death Row. Me and Suge were individuals. And I'm an individual that if nobody ever gave me an opportunity, where would I be? Me and him, we were friends. So it wasn't no, okay, well I'ma go over here and change to Death Row. Fuck Jive Records. No, me and Jive, I love Jive to death. Jive allowed me to be who I wanted to be. Jive never stepped in my way of anything that I wanted to do. And that's where people's misconception came in. Everybody thought I was signed to Death Row because they seen me with Suge. And they thought I was gonna be on that same shit. But if you look at the media, you look at the press, you ain't never see Petey and Suge in the club doing something stupid. You ain't never seen people getting beat up when Petey and Suge was together. You ain't never seen no dumb shit like that happen. It never happened. Me and Suge were friends. I would go to his family's house and have dinner, and at Christmas, I would spend the holidays over there. I was in LA, I was staying in LA. We were just friends, and everybody got that twisted. And I guess that made a lot of people mad because you don't know what's going on. How you gonna be mad at me because of who I choose to talk to? Okay, yeah, he is blackballed in the industry. But hey, that ain't got nothing to do with me. You can't judge me by the people that I choose to talk to.
You know, it's cool, it's cool. That's all what they've been used to.
I'm a ride for, you know what I'm saying? She giving some uncut, she spanking motherfucking ears. But this Petey motherfucking Pablo.
That's what's up. Petey motherfucking Pablo. Let me just say something right quick.
Unfortunately for Petey, the public did judge him because he was associated with Suge Knight. Around 2010, Petey's career seemed to be on the rise again after a long hiatus. He was making guest appearances and had founded his own label, Carolina Music Group. However, around 2011, he was caught attempting to carry a stolen loaded weapon on a US Airways flight on the anniversary of 9/11. He was arrested and charged with several offenses, including possession of a firearm by a felon. About an hour after his arrest, he was released on a $50,000 bond and allegedly passed out his CDs to jailers before he left. Petey then took a plea deal and was sentenced to 35 months in prison. However, he continued to work on his music and drop his debut mixtape Carolina #1. He also announced that he was working on album #3, one that was going to be called A&R, Anticipated Recordings. While incarcerated, Pablo did his best to get more of his music out there, whether it was old or new work. He was partially successful, featuring on Timbaland's Redbone with Sebastian around 2013 and dropping the mixtape Carolina Bound the following year. Pablo wound up only serving 31 months in prison, and once he got out, he was ready to tackle the music industry once again. Shortly after his release, Petey shared that he was back in the studio with Timbaland. I'm now headed to the workshop to begin what will be noted as my best work ever with one of the greatest producers of all time. See ya in a few, shirt still spinning. Unfortunately, it was not. By this point, it was too late for Pablo to kickstart his career. After dealing with the law, Pablo's career was never able to recover despite his best efforts. His affiliation with Suge Knight and his jail time left a bad taste in people's mouths, and he was unable to feature on a charting single ever again. However, he still continued to drop music sporadically, with his most recent release being the song Come On around 2023.
I'm getting ready for the spot, yeah. Get back, jump back, I'm getting hot, yeah. I know a whole lot of y'all that forgot, yeah.
Despite this, it's clear that Pablo's chart-topping days are behind him, and he remains a relic of a bygone era of hip-hop. Now, although Pablo is not as active as he used to be, he still has a decent following and presence on social media. According to sources, he got married around 2001 and has 2 children and remains very hush-hush about his family life. On Spotify, he has 1.74 million monthly listeners, and his most listened to songs are Freek-A-Leek, Show Me the Money, Raise Up, and Vibrate. That's it for me, it's your boy Ali. What happened to Petey Pablo in your opinion? Let me know down below. Video requests, let me know down below as well. New What Happened To video dropping soon. Also add me on Instagram at Ali Talks Music. Till next time, adios.